Okay, Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. Footage was released. I'm gonna react to the footage. I think that what Blackmagic have here is probably the ultimate documentary camera. So I've been watching this material all over, like from back to back, and analyzed it. I've even test graded it, but that I'm gonna go into another time. And at the same time, I also did a LUT package for you guys, so you can download that if you check out the link in the description or somewhere here. But that whole process of just going through testing the material out, it really got me to understand like what this camera can do and where I need to have some answers. So anyway, let's just start looking at this. First off is Walking Day, which is an indoor shot in, I'm guessing, just a regular hotel room, and I feel like this is a lit shot. So that's it's something that bothers me because you won't really see the dynamic range potential, but let's just digest this for a second. In the beginning of this shot, you have her face, you have a light coming there it's a bit cold, so that's why I'm guessing this is a lit shot here. But looking at this situation here, where you see her in the beginning, you have like shadows on this side is fine, and the front is fine in terms of detail. And then at the same time you have the light which is on in the room, the practical, and then in the window you actually have details of like both the sky is perfect, and then you have the buildings which has like harsh sunlight on the outside. All that is super detailed. That is a good thing. That's not a lot of cameras that will handle this in this good of a way, where you have like not a lot of shallow depth of field, everything is super like detailed and everything, but you still have details. And if we just forward a bit to the next position where she's closer to the camera, this is where I'm guessing it's lit, because it's a little bit different of a color temperature in her face. And we wouldn't be able to notice this if it was graded, but now this is like raw footage, so now we see that it has the natural tint here, which usually means that they have used balanced lights. So in that sense, I'm guessing that this has also pushed up all the shadows in the room, so it makes it easier for this to handle this whole dynamic range. So I wouldn't like be overwhelmed with this, like it's not super clear that this is perfect, but it's pretty damn good. And then we have the mountain bike shot. And this is where it becomes really troublesome for me. Because looking at the raw footage, it's really noisy. So you do have a lot of chroma noise. You see a lot of like in the reds, and it's not a pleasing thing. I would not say that this is a camera that handles noise very well, judging off of this one. I would be a bit worried if I saw this. I don't know what ISO this was shot on. I should probably check, but maybe you guys can clarify in the comments. We have chromatic aberration. That's an issue. We have this. Okay, this is not the easiest. It's like neon type of colors. So they usually just like get all destroyed in terms of details. This one does too. It doesn't really handle it loses detail in the shirt and in the helmet. And that worries me a bit. I don't know, maybe that's just because it's neon colors and it wasn't exposed correctly, and I don't know. That's something I would look out for though. And then on top of that, like this is as noisy as the previous part of this. But another thing is also the sharpness. I feel like there's some sharpening going on that feels digital. If you just look at like before the mountain bike comes in and you see all the grass, that looks like it doesn't really look natural, the sharpness. And I don't know what it is. Like, is it because it's the micro four thirds that's much sharper? And I feel like when I watch this, I feel like this is post-processed. This is a bit what the Mavic does to me, but in a more professional way. The Mavic does a noise reduction thing, the Sony's does as well, that makes the image look unnatural because they also sharpen it. They reduce the noise and then they sharpen it. And it's too much. You do a generic thing on things and certain areas will become just unnatural. This is one of those shots, I feel, where like it worries me so much that this is what you would get, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's just like badly exposed or too high of an ISO. But you have these weird like red spots in the material. And I don't know where they come from. Like, why do you have these weird, like it's chromatic aberration. Like it's red chromatic aberration. I don't know why. I think that's because it's noise reduction. But really this shot, it's definitely the thing that worries me the most of all this. It also looks a bit unnatural if you look at it like frame by frame. When you look at it smooth, just like flowing in a video, you don't notice it as much. But when I look at it like this, just one frame, it kind of worries me. I just feel like it's not as clean as the ProRes stuff. Okay, but that's just my thoughts on the RAW. I want to have a lot of questions answered there, because this makes me worry a bit. Okay, two things since I recorded this. I think one issue is that this is cropped slow motion. So it's cropped. I mean, raw footage is not something that you do, like there's no noise reduction or anything. It's not processed in that sense. But I do get a feel that something is going on. So I don't know what that is. Like it's a digital process of some sort, I feel, or it's just noisy. But having like dig through comments and people commenting on the live stream I did where I took this as an example, I think that the big issue here is like it's high ISO, but high is, I'm not sure, but like 800 or something, so that's not high. And then it's a crop factor, and then it's slow motion. And perhaps that's what's creating this, but that is troublesome. That means that 120 crop factor, not really working. So if that's the case, then we have a problem with that. If it's something else, then yeah, that would be good for Blackmagic. But this is not good enough to be something that people will like get the camera for the 120 frames per second feature. It's a bit crappy, like cheesy type of things that they put up. Either it's like macro photography type of stuff, or it's like all beautiful models that look like totally fake, or it's like, oh, action sport, but it looks like totally soulless. Like, I don't like that. Like, bring somebody in that actually can tell a story and like do something that's like fantastic. Why are you gonna release something in that weak of a way? Anyway, next footage to look at is the balloons. And the balloons I feel are really nice. It's a proof and testament of how well it handles dynamic range, because you have this shadow scene or like this cloudy type of feel where you have people in the shadows, well exposed, and still you have a lot of exposure and details in the sky, which is a sunset. So this to me feels, I feel confident with this one. Not a lot of noise in the shadows, really good details in the highlights. And the close-up at night, that one doesn't even do it for me because it's a lit shot and it's like badly white balanced, I feel, in terms of choosing the color of the light that they use. Should have been a bit colder so you can not have so much blue in the background, like have it a bit closer. Yeah, it's just a controlled environment. It doesn't give any clue into how it would handle just walking around in the evening outside. You have good image quality, and looking at the material that I've seen, the footage, like it looks good. It doesn't blow me away. It doesn't look fantastic. It looks like it's a decent cinematographer that shot it. So it's not like you get a style or you get some like, oh wow feeling to it. That I think is more the lack of the cinematographer than the camera. At least I'm guessing here, but that's where I'm heading with my thoughts. Then we have the forest shot, which is, yeah, this is pretty confident for me. This looks like it could have been shot with the Ursa. I've shot similar things with the Ursa. It has a lot of details in the shadows. It's basically just a silhouette shot, but you have details everywhere. But then you do have some chromatic aberration in the branches towards the sky, but that's natural. It's a blue sky, like that contrast towards the black branches will introduce chromatic aberrations in most cameras, I think. But you would probably have to post-process it because you have a lot of blue that is looking unnatural. Then we have the bugs. First bug is pretty good, but it does have a little bit of noise in the shadows. So I wonder what it was shot on, because a little bit of noise, not anything like massive. You do have a lot of details and it's natural and organic looking, unlike the GH5, which looks pretty sharpened. The noise looks pretty sharpened. So it's hard to reduce the noise when it's like that. You get a lot of artifacts. And then the other shot of the bugs looks better, more clean, so it's probably shot in a different ISO. Looks good. That's my thoughts for now, at least, of like this footage. I've looked at a lot of footage. This is the ones that I wanted to look at because it was the first stuff that came out. I think a lot of people have been like talking about it in a good way, but they have missed certain things. Like looking at the mountain bike, that is a big issue for me. Was it shot on 800 or what type of ISO was it shot at? I'm just worried that that's gonna be like the standard. But then outside of that, like looking at the clean images, I'm probably the most blown away by the balloons because that's like a documentary scene. So I like that it does have detail, it looks natural. It looks like it could have been shot on the Ursa. Love that. Grab the LUTs, they're in the description or link somewhere here. And I'll do a couple of videos on the pocket cinema camera just because I feel like this is the future of cinematic documentary filmmaking on like a small team type of scale. So hopefully this helps you in like convincing you or not into buying this camera. See you guys, and subscribe if you're new around here. We do a lot of stuff on documentary filmmaking. Okay, bye. And